The alien diplomatic ship was larger than any structure Han Dejin had seen on Earth. It was not built upward like towers or outward like cities. It felt grown rather than constructed, like a living thing shaped into halls and chambers. The walls curved gently, glowing with soft light that changed color as people passed. Every step Han took reminded him that he was far from home. He walked beside the other human delegates. His hands relaxed at his sides, his face calm. Inside, his heart beat faster than usual. This was the first formal meeting between Earth and the stellar empire that ruled most of the nearby galaxy. One mistake here could turn years of hope into disaster. Han was not a soldier or a politician. He was an engineer, chosen because he understood systems and how small actions could affect large outcomes. He preferred machines to people. Machines followed rules. People did not. The council chamber opened before them like an open sky. The ceiling was high and dark, filled with slow-moving lights that looked like distant stars. Long rows of seats curved around a central platform. Each section was marked by symbols that Han could not read, but understood well enough. Every race had its place. Every place had meaning. Alien nobles sat already, tall and still, their clothing sharp and layered. Some had skin like polished stone. Others shimmered faintly, as if light lived under their flesh. Guards stood behind them, unmoving, their eyes watching everything. The human group paused at the entrance. A protocol officer from the Empire raised a hand and spoke in a clear, cold voice through a translator field. The words explained where humans were allowed to stand and where they were not allowed to sit. Han listened carefully. The instructions were long and detailed. Humans were to remain behind a marked line unless invited forward. They were not to sit unless directed. They were not to speak unless spoken to. That was fine with Han. He had no need to speak. As the others focused on the officer, Han's eyes moved across the chamber. He searched for a place that felt safe. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere that would not draw attention. Standing for hours was not a problem, but standing in the wrong place could be. He took one small step to the side, trying to align himself with a gap near a pillar where he would be less visible. It was a simple movement, careful, respectful. Before his foot touched the floor, something warm and strong closed around his wrist. Han froze. The grip was firm, but not painful. Long fingers. Smooth skin. He turned his head slowly. Beside him stood the extraterrestrial princess. Princess Rin Era was impossible to mistake. Her presence changed the air. Her clothing flowed like liquid metal, dark and bright at the same time. Her eyes were sharp and bright, focused directly on him. The guards near her stiffened, hands moving closer to their weapons. The entire chamber seemed to hold its breath. Han did not pull away. He did not bow. He did not speak. He simply met her gaze and waited. She spoke one word, her voice calm and commanding. Sit. The translator field carried the word clearly. No anger, no softness. It was not a request. She pulled his wrist gently, but with certainty. Guiding him toward the seat beside her, a sound moved through the chamber like a wave. Shock, confusion, fear. Human delegates stared in disbelief. Kong Myra's eyes widened, her training struggling to keep her face still. Lee Seok shifted his stance, ready for anything. Alien nobles reacted faster. Some leaned forward. Others whispered sharply. A few rose halfway from their seats before stopping, unsure if they were allowed to intervene. Han's mind raced, but his body remained calm. He understood enough to know this was dangerous. Sitting beside a royal without permission could mean death. Refusing a direct command from one could mean worse. So he did what humans had learned to do across centuries of uncertainty. He adapted. Han allowed himself to be guided. He sat where she placed him, his posture straight, his hands resting on his knees. He did not look around. He did not smile. He did not show fear. The princess released his wrist and took her own seat. Silence fell again, heavier than before. The protocol officer's voice failed him. He opened his mouth, closed it, and stepped back. This situation was beyond his authority. Princess Rin Era looked forward, her expression unreadable. Only those close enough could see the slight tension in her jaw. Han stared ahead as well, his thoughts sharp and focused. He felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on him. He knew that in this moment he was no longer just a man. He was a symbol, whether he wanted to be or not. He did not know why the princess had chosen him. He did not know what rule had been broken. But he knew one thing clearly. If he panicked, humans would look weak. If he acted proud, humans would look dangerous. So he chose stillness. Across the chamber, whispers grew louder. Ancient laws were being remembered. Old meanings pulled from history. Sitting beside a royal seat was not about comfort. It was about status, protection, equality. Princess Guard Yun watched closely, her hand tight on her weapon. She did not understand the princess's choice, but she trusted her. The meeting began, though it felt unreal. Voices spoke. Translations flowed. Decisions were delayed. Nothing mattered as much as the silent figure sitting beside the princess. Han listened without reacting. When alien eyes studied him, they found no arrogance. When they searched for fear, they found control. Rin Era glanced at him once, just briefly. She had expected tension, resistance, maybe trembling. She saw none. Instead, she saw a being who accepted uncertainty without complaint. A being who did not demand a throne, yet did not shrink from one. Something unfamiliar stirred within her. Curiosity, respect. The galaxy had expected humans to beg or boast. Instead, one had simply sat down. And in that quiet act, the balance of the chamber had shifted. No one yet understood what it would cost, or what it would change, but history had already begun to move. The meeting ended without resolution, but the tension it left behind did not fade. As the delegates rose, the chamber filled with controlled movement and quiet urgency. Alien nobles left in strict order, their guards forming shifting lines of protection. Human delegates waited, unsure if they were allowed to move at all. Han Dejin remained seated until Princess Rin Era stood. Only then did he rise, careful not to move faster than her. He could feel his legs were stiff, but he showed no sign of it. His calm face had become armor. The princess walked forward without looking at him. Still, she spoke softly. Her words meant only for him. Follow. Han did not hesitate. He followed one step behind, the distance respectful, but close enough to show obedience to her command rather than fear. The corridor beyond the council chamber was narrower and dimmer. The living walls pulsed with a slow rhythm, like a deep breath. Guards moved ahead and behind them, sealing the path without a word. Only when they reached a private antechamber did the princess stop. Princess Guard Yun stepped forward and blocked the entrance with her body. Her eyes stayed on Han, sharp and judging. She did not speak, but the message was clear. One wrong move would end everything. The door sealed behind him. That silence filled the room. Rin Era turned to face Han at last. Up close, her presence was even stronger. She was taller than him, but not by much. Her eyes studied him in a way that felt less like threat and more like examination. You did not resist, she said. Han considered his words carefully. You gave a direct command. That is not the same thing. On Earth, refusing without understanding can make things worse. Her gaze sharpened. You believed I would harm you. Yes, and you sat anyway. Yes. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she walked past him, circling slowly. Her steps quiet. You understand what that seat means. I understand it has meaning. That meaning places you above many in my empire. Han kept his voice steady. Then I will treat it as responsibility, not power. She stopped walking. This time, when she looked at him, something had changed. Outside the chamber, the human delegation was in chaos. Kong Mira argued quietly with Imperial aides, demanding explanation. Li Seok stood near the door, his posture relaxed but ready, his eyes never still. The seat is protected, one aide finally said. The one who sits there cannot be harmed during council hours. And outside those hours, Myra asked. The aide did not answer. Back inside, Rin Era spoke again. My court believes humans are unpredictable. Han nodded. They are correct. She lifted a brow. That is not an insult. I know. She folded her hands behind her back. They expected fear. Or pride. They saw neither. Han thought of Earth, of fragile cities and stubborn people. Humans learned long ago that showing either at the wrong time can destroy you. Rin Era studied him as if seeing a new shape in familiar space. You are not trained as a diplomat. No. You are not military. No. Then why were you chosen? Han answered honestly. Because I fix things that are breaking. Something close to amusement flickered in her eyes. A signal tone sounded softly through the chamber. Princess Guard Yun straightened. Your presence is requested by the High Circle. Rin Era did not move. They will wait. Yun hesitated, then bowed her head and stepped back. Ein Era turned back to Han. There will be consequences for what I did. I expected that. For you as well. I expected that too. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Many will test you now. Some will provoke. Some will attempt to frighten you. Han met her eyes. Then I will remain seated. For the first time, she smiled slightly. It was brief and controlled, but real. When they returned to the corridor, the reaction was immediate. Alien officials paused. Guards stiffened. Whispers followed them like shadows. The princess walked at a measured pace. Han matched her stride without effort. Kong Myra caught his eye as they passed. Her look carried 1,000 questions. He answered with a small nod. Not reassurance, just truth. Li Seok moved closer, placing himself where he could intervene if needed. The alien guards noticed, but did not object. They reached the guest quarters assigned to humans. Unlike the council chamber, this place felt more neutral. The walls were plainer. The light was steady. This is where you will remain, an Imperial official said to Han. Until summoned. Rin Era turned to leave, then stopped. He will be escorted personally. The official stiffened. That is not required. It is now. She left without waiting for response. Inside the quarters, the humans gathered around Han. What did you do? Myra asked quietly. I sat. Li Seok let out a slow breath. You made half the ship nervous. Only half. Myra studied him. Do you understand what position you're in? Yes, and you're still calm. Han thought of the princess's grip on his wrist. Firm, certain. Someone has to be. Elsewhere in the ship, the High Circle argued fiercely. Ancient texts were referenced. Laws dusted off. Some demanded punishment. Others urged caution. Princess Rin Era stood silent among them. The human did not claim the seat, she said at last. I placed him there. That makes it worse, one elder replied. No, she said calmly. It makes it honest. Back in his quarters, Han sat alone on the edge of his assigned resting platform. He finally allowed himself a slow breath. He did not know how long he would remain here. He did not know if he would return to Earth. But he knew one thing. The galaxy was watching how a human sat, and he would not move unless it mattered. Time moved differently aboard the alien ship. There was no clear day or night. only cycles of light that shifted slowly. Han Dejin remained in the guest quarters, watched at all times by polite but silent guards. They did not threaten him. They did not speak. Their presence alone was pressure. He used the time to observe. The walls changed tone when voices rose outside. The floor responded softly to weight. The ship was not just transport. It was aware in its own way. Kongmira visited when allowed. She brought updates in short, careful sentences. The high circle was divided. Some nobles wanted humans removed from the ship at once. Others wanted tests. A few wanted to see how far the princess would go. They are arguing about rules, Mira said. Old ones? Han nodded. Rules appear strongest when they are questioned. Lee Seok visited too, always standing near the door. Security noticed changes, he said. Alien patrols doubled. Some guards are not regular ones. Meaning someone expects trouble. Trouble arrived sooner than expected. The summons came without warning. An imperial aide appeared at the door, his posture stiff. You are required in the Hall of Balance, he said. Han stood at once. Now, yes. The walk to the hall felt longer than before. The corridors narrowed, then widened suddenly into a vast open space. The floor was smooth and dark, reflecting light like still water. Tall pillars rose on all sides. The high circle waited at the far end. Princess Rin Era stood among them, her face calm, her hands still. Han was guided to a marked position at the center of the floor. Do not move. An aide whispered. Han did not respond. A low sound filled the hall. It was not noise, not exactly. It pressed against the mind like deep water. Han felt it immediately. Pressure pushed inward, heavy and slow. Thoughts dulled. Breathing felt distant. He saw alien nobles stiffen, some swaying slightly. Psychic force. Han's vision blurred for a moment. He clenched his jaw and focused on something solid. The weight of his boots. The feel of air in his lungs. Simple things around him. Others were not so steady. One alien collapsed to one knee. Another reached for support and missed. Murmurs rose, strained and confused. Princess Guard Yun stepped forward, her face tight with effort. Even she was affected. Rin Era remained standing, but her eyes narrowed. Han felt the pressure slide over him, not breaking through, but testing. His mind resisted without effort, like a wall built long ago. He realized something then. Humans were different. The force increased suddenly. A visible ripple moved across the hall. Several nobles cried out and fell. Han stepped forward. The aides shouted in alarm, but he did not stop. He moved until he stood beside the princess. He did not touch her. He simply placed himself between her and the source of the force. The pressure weakened. A stunned silence followed. The psychic wave faded completely. Those who had fallen were helped up. Confusion turned to fear. One of the elders spoke sharply. What was that? Rin Era's voice cut through the hall. A test. Unauthorized, another replied. Yes, she agreed. And revealing. All eyes turned to Han. He moved, someone said. He resisted. Another whispered. Han stood quietly, his breathing steady. His heart beat fast now, but his face showed nothing. Rin Era looked at the elders. Humans do not use psychic command, she said. They do not depend on it. Their minds developed under constant noise and threat. One elder frowned. You claim immunity. I claim difference. Lee Seok and human guards entered the hall in a run. They took positions without raising weapons. Their presence alone changed the mood. We detected a hostile act, Lee Seok said calmly. We responded. With restraint, Rin Era added. The high circle argued again, but this time the tone had changed. Fear had replaced confidence. Later, in a secure chamber, Rin-Era faced Han alone. "You should not have moved," she said. "I understood the risk. You placed yourself between a psychic weapon and a royal." "Yes. Why?" Han answered simply. It was the correct position. She studied him for a long moment. "Your kind survived without these abilities." "Yes? How?" "By enduring." Outside, news spread quickly. Humans had resisted a power that defined much of the Empire's control. Not through strength, through difference. Some nobles were angry. Others were shaken. Princess Guard Yun bowed to Han later, just slightly. He noticed. He did not comment. That night, as the ship drifted between stars, Han sat again. Not on a throne, not in a council seat, just sitting, and the galaxy began to understand that humans could not be pushed aside by force alone. After the incident in the Hall of Balance, nothing felt the same. The alien ship continued its steady path through space, but inside, the order that once felt unbreakable had shifted. Guards moved with more caution. Officials spoke in lower voices. Even the living walls seemed to glow more softly, as if listening. Han Dejin became a subject of quiet attention. He was no longer treated as a guest or a threat. He was treated as an unknown factor. Doors opened faster for him. Conversations paused when he entered a room. No one challenged him directly. Princess Rin-Era requested his presence again, this time without ceremony. The room she chose was small compared to the council hall. One wall was clear, showing a slow river of stars passing by. The light inside was warm and steady. No guard stood between them, though Han knew they were close. "You changed the balance," she said. "I did not intend to. Intent does not matter." She turned from the stars to face him. "Only result." Han nodded. "On Earth, we learned that lesson often." She studied him. "My court believes you were trained to resist psychic force." "I was not. They do not believe that. That is understandable." She walked closer, stopping a short distance away. "Tell me the truth." Han did not hesitate. Humans live with constant pressure, noise, conflict, fear. Our minds learn to filter instead of control. Rin-Era listened closely. So when the force was applied, it felt familiar. She considered this in silence. "My people built an empire on clarity of thought, on order, on command. And humans built survival on confusion." Han replied gently. Something shifted in her expression. Not anger, not pride, thought. "You did not try to lead," she said. "You did not try to dominate. Yet others followed your movement. I only stepped where I was needed." She looked away, back to the stars. "That is why I chose you." Han felt the weight of her words, but did not let it show. Outside the room, the high circle continued to fracture. Younger nobles questioned old laws openly for the first time. Older ones demanded tradition be enforced before it collapsed. "The princess is weakening the throne," one elder said. "She is testing it," another replied. "Princess Guard." Yun listened from the edge of the chamber. Her loyalty remained firm, but doubt had begun to fade. She had seen the humans stand when others fell. Later, Han was escorted to a gathering of mixed delegates. It was not a formal council, but a controlled exchange. Humans and aliens stood together in small groups. Watched carefully. An alien noble approached Han. His skin shimmered faintly with internal light. "You are difficult to read," the noble said. Han answered simply. "I am not hiding. That may be the problem." The noble studied him. "If humans cannot be compelled, how are they ruled?" Han met his gaze. "They are not." The noble stepped back, unsettled. Kong Mira joined Han soon after. "You are becoming a question no one likes," she said quietly. "I can live with that." She smiled slightly. They are afraid of what you represent. What is that? A people that cannot be controlled the way they control others. That night, alarms sounded softly across the ship. Not an emergency signal. A summons. The high circle had reached a decision. Han stood once more in the great chamber, this time with humans beside him openly. The elders spoke one by one, their words sharp and measured. The princess acted outside protocol. She endangered stability. She elevated an untested species. Rin-Era listened without interruption. When they finished, she stepped forward. I acted to reveal truth, she said. The Empire relies on methods that do not work on all minds. You would reshape law for this. I would reshape it for reality. The chamber grew tense. Han felt every eye on him again. He did not move. He did not speak. Finally, an elder turned to him. Human, why did you sit? Han answered calmly. Because I was told to. Why did you stand? Because someone was in danger. You claim no ambition. I claim responsibility. Silence followed. Rin-Era looked at the circle. This is humanity. They do not seek to rule us. They seek to stand when it matters. The decision was delayed, but something else happened instead. Respect began to grow, not loudly, not all at once, but steadily. As the meeting ended, Rin-Era walked beside Han once more. This time, no one objected. The stars outside burned quietly. The galaxy was learning that strength did not always speak. Sometimes it simply stayed standing. The decision came quietly, without ceremony or celebration. That was how the Empire handled changes it did not fully understand. Loud announcements were for victories. This was something deeper. Han Dejin learned of it when Princess Guard-Yun arrived at his quarters alone. She stood straighter than before, her expression firm but respectful. The high circle has concluded, she said. Han rose. And you are to attend. The final assembly took place in a smaller chamber, one shaped like a wide circle with no raised platform. There was no throne, no place above another. That alone carried meaning. Humans and aliens entered together. No one was separated. No one was directed where to stand. Han noticed it immediately. Princess Rin-Era entered last. She did not wear ceremonial dress. Her clothing was simple, almost plain by imperial standards. She looked less like a ruler and more like a person. She met Han's eyes briefly. There was no command in her gaze this time. Only acknowledgement. An elder stepped forward. His voice was steady, but the effort behind it was clear. The Empire recognizes a truth revealed, he said. Human minds cannot be ruled by the methods we use. A pause followed. To treat them as lesser would be ineffective and dangerous. Another pause. Therefore, Earth will not be placed under imperial authority. Kang Mira felt her breath catch. Li Siak's hand tightened slightly, then relaxed. The humans will be offered equal standing within a limited council, the elder continued. Not subjects, not rulers, participants. The word echoed through the room. Participants. Rin-Era stepped forward. The seat beside me, she said calmly, will remain open. Murmurs rose again, but this time they were mixed with understanding. That seat will represent humanity, she continued. Not power, presence. All eyes turned to Han. He did not move. The elder addressed him directly. Human, do you accept? Han considered the question carefully. He thought of Earth, of crowded cities and quiet nights, of people who argued loudly and stood together when it mattered. I accept, he said. On behalf of my people. The meeting ended without applause. Agreements were recorded. Signals were sent across space. History shifted. Later, in a private corridor near the observation deck, Rin-Era walked beside Han one last time. You will leave soon, she said. Yes. You could stay. The council would approve. Han shook his head. Others will sit better than I do. She studied him. You do not want influence. I want understanding. They stopped near the great window. Stars flowed past like quiet fire. My people believe strength must be seen, she said. Mine learned it often is not. She was silent for a long moment. When I first took your wrist, she said, I expected resistance. You would have found it, Han replied. Later, a small sound escaped her. Almost a laugh. Princess Guard Yun approached and bowed to Han fully this time. You stood when others could not, she said. Han returned the bow. Simple and respectful. The human delegation prepared to depart. There were no escorts of force. Only honor. As Han stepped onto the transfer vessel, he looked back once. Rin Era stood watching, her posture straight, her expression thoughtful. The seat beside her remained, empty. Not abandoned, reserved. The vessel pulled away from the great ship. Stars widened around it. On Earth, news spread slowly at first, then faster. Humans had not conquered anything. They had not submitted either. They had been recognized. Han sat, alone during the journey home, hands resting on his knees, posture relaxed. He felt no pride, no regret, only quiet certainty. Humanity did not need a throne in the stars. They only needed a place to stand when the universe tested them. And now, the galaxy knew. When a human searched for a place to sit, it was never by accident.